Kindness. We see it all around us. We see it when someone pays for someone else's coffee or holds the door open for another person. We see it in the smallest of gestures, like a smile or a kind word. But it's different when we turn on the news or social media. Oftentimes, what we hear about, what outlets are pushing, is the opposite of kind. Welcome to the Kindness Matters podcast. Our goal is to give you a place to relax, to revel in stories of people who have received or given kindness, a place to inspire and motivate each and every one of us to practice kindness every day. Hello and welcome to the Kindness Matters podcast. I am your host, Mike Rathbun. And today I have such an amazing guest. He's been called America's breakthrough speaker. This man has delivered over 1,800 presentations all over the world over the last 33 years. He's the author of 16 books, including his bestseller Beyond Success and his brand new book, Lessons from the Legends. He was rated number one from over 40 speakers at 4 consecutive Inc. magazine international conferences. With degrees from Stanford University and UCLA, he has appeared on Good Morning America and CNN. He was recently honored as one of the top 10 interactive keynote speakers in North America and one of the top 60 motivational speakers in the world. Please welcome to the show, Brian Biro.
Oh, it's actually Biro. That's a tongue twister.
Biro.
That's right.
I completely, what's that called? Dyslexied your name.
I know, but
I am so sorry, Brian.
Because there's a Brio toys, so I like that. I like being connected with toys. But yeah, don't believe me. It's
Brian Biro. I had it. I had it nailed. It was cold. Preparation, right?
Well, believe me, no worries. At least you didn't do bird brain. That's how it could come out sometimes. So,
well, yeah. Then I just have to. I'd just like crawl underneath the desk and we'd do this thing. Oh boy, how are you today, Brian? Aside from that, I'll just stick with Brian because I can say that.
There you go. I'm doing so well. I love. I often say, remember to enjoy every precious moment. And I'm just back from doing 10 events, speaking at 10 events in just a really short period of time, about 30 days. So I love what I do. So I'm flying and getting excited about Thanksgiving, where my whole family will be coming together.
Oh, fantastic. That's great. Yeah, we've got a new grandson that'll be around for Thanksgiving this year, too. That'll be interesting.
The best.
He just turned 1 earlier this month, so
awesome.
Actually, my dog loves it though because he'll throw all the stuff on the floor. So the dog's like, "Yay, Kaysen's coming over."
Yeah.
Now, Brian, you're known as America's breakthrough speaker, and you've written, as we mentioned, 16 books. You travel around the world speaking and teaching about team building, leadership, coaching, life balance, thriving on change. One of my favorites, you speak about kindness and possibility thinking. What in your background prepared you to do this kind of important work?
Mike, I've had a great life. I've had three really wonderful careers, each one teaching me a great lesson. My first career, when I graduated from Stanford, the way I went through Stanford was I coached and taught swimming in the summers to put myself through that and megalones, which I really didn't love. And I loved it. I loved working with these kids to try to rise to their potential. And truly, if you coach swimming, you're not really coaching swimming, you're coaching people. And so my first career was as a swimming coach and trying to help kids really find that self-confidence to deal with winning, with losing, with in between. And I absolutely loved it. And so that gave me a great background. And when you're coaching swimming, you're kind of doing motivational speaking because they can't hear you. Their heads are in the water. So you have to really develop your lungs. And I'd probably still be a coach today, a swimming coach today, were it not for the fact that I had no life. My team became gigantic, the largest private team in America. And it was all consuming 7 days a week. And I really didn't know myself outside of what I did. I didn't know who I was. And so I'm probably the only guy, Mike, you've ever met who went to graduate school to get a life instead of a job, which I did. That's when I met my wife. That's when I really started to take better care of my health. I went into my corporate career. So my second career was a corporate career. And I ended up becoming a vice president of a pretty large transportation company. But I realized I didn't care that much about transportation. I love people. It was that same concept. And the principles that I had learned as a coach, as a swimming coach, had great application in the corporate world. How to really become a team, how to generate synergy, how to really work with people to help rise to their potential and work well together. And so I really learned a lot about how much I loved kind of teaching and coaching, because I began to do programs, seminars, speaking in my own company, because we were very separated. A lot of organizations, we got sales that hates operations, operations hate sales. They just hate the home office a little bit more. And that just didn't work with all of my background. And so that's when I actually started as a speaker, because I started doing these programs, these keynote presentations in my own company. And we had a massive turnaround. And it was, most people would say at that time, well, it's the market. That's why we're not doing well. I said, no, it's not the market. It's us. We don't work well together, and we can. And we did. And we had this incredible turnaround. And at the peak of this thing, where everything was going fantastic, I said to my wife, we're doing great. Let's quit. I want to go do this speaking all the time. And so that led me to my third career, which was what I've been doing now for 33 years as a professional speaker and an author, to really combine what I learned from those first two, that I love people and that the principles I teach as a coach work just as much in the corporate world and work for the individual. So it's been a wonderful ride. I've loved every single one of the almost 1,900 events I've done, because they're really about helping people make new choices.
Yeah, what's the old saying? If you love what you do, you don't work a day in your life.
That is for sure. And it's truly amazing how, when you love what you do, how much energy you have to do it. I joke about it, but it's the gospel truth. When I'm on stage, I'm 25. When I get off stage, I'm back to 69. But on stage, I am 25 years old.
Now, I've watched a lot of your, or not a lot. I've watched several of your presentations. Is that a good?
That's great. Sure.
I was going to say shows, because they're so entertaining. They could be a show. But
if you don't edutain, if you don't enter teach, it's not going to grab people. You need to make it fun, and you need to make it engaging. So yeah, thank you.
Absolutely. One of the common threads in every one of those presentations, you state that we are all leaders. And most of us have been raised to think that, there's a couple leaders and everybody else is a follower. Tell us about your perspective. I mean, what is breakthrough leadership?
Yeah, I love that. Thank you for that. Great question. First of all, the reason why everyone is a leader, here's a simple question. What is leadership? If you really get down to its core, leadership is nothing more than making decisions and then acting upon those decisions, or not acting upon the decisions, which is a way of acting on that decision. So we're all the CEO of our own life. In other words, how do you show up every day? That's a big part of your leadership. You're teaching the people around you a way to deal with life. How do you deal with adversity, with challenge, with change, with prosperity? Another application of your leadership. Probably the most important one of all, why we're all leaders. What kind of impact do you have on people? Do you lift them up? Do you energize them? Do you inspire them? Do you neutralize them? So we're all foundationally self-leaders. We're the CEOs of our own life. And that's a very important distinction to make in your own mind, because of the fact that we've been conditioned to think, oh, there's the leaders and then there's the rest of us. And breakthrough leadership, which has been my passion and focus for all through those three careers, but really kind of crystallized as a professional speaker. Breakthrough leadership is about controlling three controllables. You ever notice, Mike, when we're controlling our controllables, we're focusing on the things we do control, how much more momentum we feel in our life, how much more confident we feel like we can. It's when we try to control other people or try to control other people's approval of us that we get lost, disillusioned, and we give up. So there are three foundational controllables that comprise what I call breakthrough leadership. The first is to shape your future. That is a choice about how we use our vision. And in all my presentations, I help people understand that what you focus on is what you create. And I do it in some fun ways, get people to do things, and also to not use your memory to see. I often ask people in every event that I do, I ask them this question. I won't put you on the spot, so don't answer out loud because you might already know. I ask them, what color is a yield sign? I've asked that to probably 500,000 people, and 499,997 have said yellow. Well, they're red and white, and they've been red and white for 52 years. And the question is, why don't we see them when they're right in front of us? And the reason is, we very rarely use our vision to see. Instead, we use our memory and our conditioning. And whenever you use your memory to see, you do not see what is, you see what was. And when you lock onto what was, you block out what is and what could be. So the first key, the first of those controllables to be a breakthrough leader, to develop as a breakthrough leader, is to shape your future. The second is to energize and engage your team. When it comes to human performance, when it comes to teamwork, when it comes to great health and joy and a fulfilling life, so much of it is energy. But so many people think of their energy in the same way they think about the weather. It's kind of like, boy, I hope the weather's good for that Thanksgiving drive. Hope the weather's good over a Christmas vacation. But your energy is nothing like the weather. Your energy is absolutely, positively, magnificently a matter of your choice. And when you understand how to cultivate a new energy choice, watch out, because your whole life will take on a whole new level. And you control your energy by two foundational keys. One, by the way that you move. Anytime you've been at your energy is created by the way that you move. In other words, anytime you've been at your best, you've given your best presentation, you've done your best show, you've been your most creative, you've been your kindest. You have moved your body in distinctly different ways than when you've not been your best. Specifically, your body line and posture. I saw you sit up here. Your facial expression,
I
eye position.
immediately sat up a little straighter.
And your breathing. And instantly you can feel a rise in your energy just by sitting up and smiling more. I've said this to some people before, Mike. I said, your energy is created by the way they move. And they say, well, Brian, if I had more energy, I'd move more. Move more and you'll have more energy. That's where the choice resides. I'll bet everybody listening to your show knows somebody in their life. Maybe it's a grandparent or a parent, or it's an old coach or a teacher, or a boss, who amazes them because at a very advanced age, that individual has incredible energy. And though I obviously have no idea who they're specifically thinking about, I bet I know two things about that person. One, they're one of your heroes. They're somebody you admire greatly because of that energy. And number two, they keep moving. We don't get older, we just stop moving. So if you want to move your life, you got to move yourself and bring more movement. The second key to energy, and that's second of those three controllables to be a breakthrough leader, is that the level of your energy is in direct proportion to your level of purpose. Whenever you're full of purpose, you're full of energy. When you get to do what you love to do, energy is no problem. But when you lose sight of your purpose, it's like somebody puts a pin in that energy. One of the great books, Mike, of all time was a book called Man's Search for Meaning. And it was written by Viktor Frankl, who endured and made it through living as a prisoner at Auschwitz, the concentration camp during World War II. But probably the most profound finding from his 5 years of absolute terror, living in a concentration camp where you're starved to death. He said that the people who survived were those that had a purpose left undone. It wasn't about their physical strength. It wasn't about their youth. It was they had something that drove them to keep going. So if you're not inspired, then you're on your way to getting expired. So,
oh boy.
At every event at which I speak, Mike, I bring with me a photo of my family. They are my purpose. I love them more than life itself. And though they're beautiful people, I don't bring the photo with me to show my audience, even though I do show it to them. I bring it with me to show me, because everything I want to do for them. And before I speak, I go to my purpose. I go to that photo of them. I spend conscious, present time with them, and something magical happens. It changes me. It doesn't matter anymore if my knees are sore. It doesn't matter if my back's been achy. All that matters when I'm full of purpose is that if I don't give the people in front of me, whoever they are, the best I have to give, I'm not giving my family my best because I do it for them. So if you want to elevate your energy, become more purposeful. Here's a simple way to do it. Start every morning with one question. First thing, ask yourself, what am I truly grateful about in my life? What am I truly grateful about in my life? That, Mike, the word has a secret in it, especially if you're not big on spelling. What you're grateful about will help you be grateful. It'll fill you with greatness. It'll focus you on your priorities. Your priorities are your pathway to purpose. So the second of the three controllables in breakthrough leadership is to energize and engage your team, which means you must first energize and engage yourself. And to do that, you got to change the way you move, add movement to your life. If you want to move your life, you got to move yourself. And every day start with gratitude leading to purpose. The third of the controllables is to build people, build teams, and build relationships. That no matter what business you're in, no matter what your occupation, if you get right down to it, you're in the people business. It's the relationships you build. It's how you grow and you help others grow that really determines how far you can go. So how do we help people know they're important? How do we build trust with people instantly? How do we really help people to rise to their potential? And that is a choice of certain things that we can do that I'm sure we'll talk about more on this program. But when you do those three things, shape your future, energize, engage your team, build people, teams, and relationships, you're going to create breakthrough results. And breakthrough results are doing things you didn't know you could do when you started out. Breakthrough results are when you step back and go, wow, I can't believe I did that. And those are incredible. But the best part about breakthrough leadership to me, Mike, is that as you work on those three controllables, and that's what you focus on. You don't focus on the results. You focus on what you put in to get to the results.
Right.
As you do it, as you master those three controllables, eventually breakthrough leadership moves from what you do on the outside to who you are on the inside. And that's a model of personal excellence, integrity, accountability, and humility.
Yeah. And part of your to illustrate your breakthrough leadership style, you do something during your presentations that I had so much fun watching it, where you have participants break was it 1 inch
Yep.
thick piece of wood?
Yep. Yeah.
That is so, and that's illustrating it, right? Your approach.
You're exactly right, and that's what I love about it. To me, it's the breakthrough experience. Everyone in my events breaks through 1 inch thick boards, karate style, and it's the greatest combination of individual and team breakthrough experience. What I love about it, first of all, is that at most events that you go and listen to a speaker, it could be a great speaker, but you just listen to him and then you walk out. And
right, he just wanders the stage and he imparts what he wants to impart. And yours is very interactive.
Yeah, but in the breakthrough experience, you actually take everything we've learned before we do the breakthrough. It's what we end with, and you have to apply it for real to break your board, and you walk out with it. So it's very real, and the stars of the show at the end of my presentations are the participants, because they just were breakthrough leaders. They did something they had no clue they could do when they walked in. So it is the greatest combination, individual and team breakthrough experience you'll have an event. The individual part is related to the meaning. I have guide everyone to write on their board, and they search inside and say, what is the limit, fear, obstacle, habit, or doubt that today is the day I am ready to break through once and forever? What am I ready to break through? Example, the first board I ever broke 34 years ago, I wrote on my board, I knew my obstacle. It was what was constantly holding me back in life. It was one word. It was the word procrastination. And
so many people deal with that, right?
That's right. Let me give you a tip. The best thing to do about procrastination, put it off. No, mine was specific procrastination. It was procrastination about writing books. My whole life I wanted to write a book, but I always found a way to put it off. Well, I'll write my books when the kids are older. I'll write it when I've got more money. I'll write it when I have some time. The only reason I didn't write my book, that was all excuses, was fear.
Sure.
In fact, there is one breakthrough. You break through from fear to love. That's it. But I wrote the word procrastination on the front of my board. On the back of my board, I got to envision and write down what's waiting for me when I've finally broken through that procrastination. I wrote freedom, abundance, and truth to my word. That when I overcame the fear that was causing me to procrastinate, And I actually wrote a book. I'd bring my family new abundance. We'd have more freedoms than we ever knew we had. And every day of my life, I'd be living my word, walking my talk instead of faking it. And so the individual part of the breakthrough experience is related to that meaning. I've had people bring their families back together. I've had people forgive someone they never thought they would forgive, and instantly they know not forgiving them was drinking a great big glass of poison and expecting them to die. I've
Yeah.
had people tackle cancer and beat it because of what they wrote on their board. I've had people
Wow.
lose 140 pounds. So
Oof.
the individual part of the breakthrough experience is related to the meaning. But there's another part, and I love this part. If I had 500 people at one of my presentations, we would start the board breaking in 50 circles of 10 people each. All right. And so, Mike, if you were in your circle and you decided, I'm ready to break my board, the other 9 people around you will start going, Mike, 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 Mike. And they're clapping and they're cheering. And there's 50 of those going at a time. Some people have never been cheered for in their life. And for
Oh,
them,
wow.
that unconditional, incredible support is the breakthrough. The team part is equally cool because there's
Yeah.
something about the breakthrough experience that even more introverted, shy people, they just let go during board breaking. They're cheering their hearts out. They got tears in their eyes. They're completely focused. And the last part of the team experience, the best way I can describe it, is the best day of my life, Mike, was my daughter's wedding day. I have a picture right in front of me as I speak to you now of us dancing at that day. And
Uh,
it was the best day of my life for something I never could have understood until I experienced it. And that was for a good 6 hours for wedding night. I didn't think of myself once. All I could do was think of her. They tell me I
yeah.
was laughing and crying at the same time. I don't remember any. All I remember was her. And when those 9 people are around you, Mike, going, Mike, 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 as you're going to break that board, they get to feel in those moments the way I felt about my daughter. They're not thinking about themselves. They're
Right.
pouring their unconditional support into another human being. And we're at our best because we'll do more for others than we'll do for ourselves. And that's how you move from ego to we go. So, yeah, I never tire of the breakthrough experience. I've had almost 1 million people do it over the last 33 years, and I can't wait for the next one. I've even had a 95-year-old woman break her board. The last breaker on that day in Atlanta, Georgia, of 4,000 people. It was the biggest breakthrough I ever did. They're all 4,000 people. If you can imagine, it's like a rock concert with like
Yeah.
4,000 people all jammed up around this very high stage. And she came up on stage. Her granddaughter had to stand behind her and hold her waist so she wouldn't teeter too much.
Oh,
And I will tell you, when she broke her board, the roar from that 4,000 people in Atlanta was loud enough I could hear it here in Charlottesville, Virginia. So it was,
oh, wow.
and of course, when she breaks through, so did those 4,000 people. They were so connected to her
Oh,
that for
sure.
them, they probably remember that even more than their own breakthrough.
I would imagine. Wow. Um, okay, I want to switch gears real quick because you have a brand new book out called The ROI of Kindness. And for anybody who doesn't know, I'm sure everybody does, but the return on investment is what ROI is. Tell us about the book and the motivations that ignited you to write it.
Well, I think we're going to really connect on this part, Mike, because I know how much of a passion you have about kindness. And I wrote this book because I feel like in the last, we'll say 7 years, I have seen less kindness than in all of my previous 50 some years. I've seen more incivility, people not recognizing that we can disagree without being disagreeable. I've had people calling each other names rather than trying to seek to understand another viewpoint. Um, People wanting credit instead of realizing that credit is something you give, responsibility is something you take. So the real heart of the inspiration was I feel like more than ever in my life, we need to open our eyes to how important it is to bring kindness into this world, into our country, into our families, into our businesses, into our lives. So that was the first part of the motivation. The second part was to help people understand that kindness just isn't a fun thing or a nice thing. It is those things. It
Yeah.
works. It works. And that's what I wanted people to understand because in this lessening of kindness that I see in our culture, particularly in our politics, what I've discovered is that many people have come to the conclusion, and it's so erroneous, that kindness is weak or kindness is soft. It has no place in business or in politics. And
Right.
what I wanted to prove in this book through the research that I did was that that is diametrically wrong. That actually companies and organizations that focus on kindness at an extraordinary level are the most successful companies in their industries by far, not even close. And so the book has lots of those examples. So that's the first part of the book, was to really zero in that, yes, not only is kindness something we all want in our lives, it is actually a very important key to success. And then the second part of the book is to help everyone understand that you can choose to become what I call a CKO, which is a Chief Kindness Officer. You may never become the CEO of your company, but by choice, you can become the Chief Kindness Officer. And then to help people understand how to actually, since we want kindness in our lives, we want to be kind, we want to receive kindness. How do you really do that in a real and complete way? So I talk in the book about the 7 habits of a highly effective CKO, Chief Kindness Officer.
Is that a new book?
Yeah, well, it's the second half of this book, but it could be a book, one book.
The 7 habits of a successful and effective CKO. Yeah, for sure. Okay, so I know you have things to do, and I don't want to take up too much of your time, but I had one more question. You are a big believer in reaching out to others and letting them know just how you feel, right? How can a simple thank you make a difference?
Before we started going on the air on the show, you and I were talking about our favorite movie.
Yes.
At this time of year, it's called It's a Wonderful Life, the Jimmy Stewart movie about his guardian angel who doesn't have wings yet, who comes down to earth and helps him recognize what a wonderful life he had, that he had no idea how his living his life the best way he knew how affected so many people. And one of the most powerful ways we affect people is through gratitude. Gratitude is the highest frequency emotion. And I love having fun in the way that I talk about these really vital principles. And I talk about being what I call a world-class buddy thinker. A world-class buddy thinker. And a great way to look at it is to ask this question: who are the people in our lives who we tend to forget to thank the most? I've asked that in hundreds and hundreds of seminars. And almost every single time, the answer is, oh my gosh, it's the people we love the most.
Thank you. I was going to say that, but I didn't want to answer out of turn.
Yeah, it's our closest family
Yeah.
members. It's our teammates that we depend on the most. What do? We take them for granted.
Sure.
It's like, hey, I told you back in 2015, I love you. What do you want, mush? So let me ask you a question. Does that work?
No.
I believe with every ounce of my heart and soul that does not work. In fact, the most important words I've ever written, that I really believe get to the heart of the power of gratitude, say this. It says, the love we fail to share is the only pain we live with. The love we fail to share is the only pain that we live with. And if we don't start recognizing how important it is to give that thanks, that recognition, that acknowledgement, the love you fail to share may become the only pain you leave with. And that's too late.
Yep.
So here's a really quick, streamlined way to become a world-class buddy thinker. Just remember, whether you love sports or can't stand it, you're going to love ESPN, the television network ESPN.
Yep.
The E says, this is a way to become a world-class buddy thinker. The E says, thank people with effort and energy. Sometimes we thank people out of rote memories. Like, hey, thanks a lot, appreciate it. It doesn't mean a thing. But when you bring a little more energy on a 10-point energy scale with 1 comatose and 10 a child on Christmas morning, get closer to 10. Look that person in the eye, smile at them, shake them with 2 hands instead of just 1. Put a little heart in the way you thank them, and it has more connection. So the E says thank people with effort and energy, the E in ESPN, but it also means thank people for their effort and energy and not just their results.
Yeah.
We've been conditioned to only give praise and acknowledgement and thanks when the job's done, when the goal's been hit, when the number's been achieved. Now, please hear me loud and strong. Keep doing that. You always want to recognize great performance.
Oh, sure.
But if you want to be world class, you want to be a great, great buddy thinker, then be more alert for the opportunities to thank people for their effort, their energy, and their attitude before they get to the results. Why? Because we don't control the results. We control our effort, our energy, and our attitude. And the more you do that, guess what? The more results they'll create. So E, thank people with and for effort and energy. S, use the power of surprise. Surprise is what I call the super glue of impact. An unexpected handwritten card. Any handwritten card these days is unexpected because we're just in an immediate
Right,
world.
we don't.
Yeah, we're in a digital world. So a handwritten card grabs people right away. Just little tiny surprises, unexpected. I did this with my daughters growing up. Every so often, I would write them letters. I would type them. I'd mail them to them, even if I knew I was going to be home when they got it. And the reason I did it was to create a little surprise. And I didn't realize the impact of that until right when my youngest daughter was about to go off to college. And there were all of her letters stacked up. And I realized she couldn't look at her desk without remembering how much I believed in her, because those surprises stick with people. The P is the most important part of the ESPN, is be fully present. When you're fully present, it's the ultimate way to be kind. When you're fully present, you say to people beyond words, you are important. You matter. You count. And when you're not present, when your mind is in another county, you say to that person, I guess you're just not that important compared to this thing I'm thinking about. So I call that the secret behind the secrets. And the N in ESPN is simply do it now. You may never pass this way again. So if there's somebody in your life you haven't thanked enough, you can do it now. And that's the only chance you may have. So never pass up the window of opportunity to be a world-class buddy thanker.
Perfect. Well, Brian, I cannot express the joy I feel having spent 30 minutes with you today. Your willingness to come on to a little tiny podcast and impart this wisdom with us is just absolutely, I feel it. I feel it right here in my heart. And I thank you so much for your time today.
Well, thank you, Mike. And you're doing great work. Remember George Bailey from It's a Wonderful Life. He may have thought he was doing a little tiny podcast, and that one podcast may touch one life, it touches another life. And the next thing you know, we change the world a little bit and we make it a little kinder.
That's the plan, man.
All right. Joy to you.
Thank you, and take care. Well, I don't know about you guys, but I feel so incredibly inspired by that 30-minute conversation with Brian Biro. I got the name right this time. I hope he's listening. It's just incredible to me how one person speaking to you can fill you with energy and motivation and all these amazing positive things. And I really appreciate Brian coming on and doing this show with us. I hope you take away that same energy and motivation to go out and make your life and somebody else's life maybe a little better. That will do it for this episode of the Kindness Matters podcast. We will be back again next week, but until then, be that person who roots for others, who tells a stranger that they look amazing, and encourages others to believe in themselves and their dreams. As always, I appreciate the gift of your time today in listening to this episode. You have been listening to the Kindness Matters podcast. I'm your host, Mike Rathbun. Have a fantastic week.